A messenger whispered, "My lady offers herself to you for abduction." King Philip first thought he had misheard, but the confidant of the Countess of Anjou confirmed that the beautiful Bertrade de Montfort indeed proposed this daring and risky plan. This was worth pondering, for Bertrade's fame resounded far beyond Anjou's borders. Born in 1070th year to a noble French family, Bertrade's parents' union resulted from her father abducting her mother. Unwilling to give his beloved daughter Agnes to Simon de Montfort, the more prestigious Count of Evra, he resorted to the customary solution: offer a large sum of money or kidnap the bride. Evra had no need for gold, so Agnes was taken. Once she became Lady de Montfort, she never lacked for anything and never regretted her fate. She bore 4 sons and a daughter, so beautiful that she was rarely allowed to leave home after turning 12. When Bertrade's father passed away in 1087, her closest male relative, her uncle, took charge of her future. Uninterested in protecting his attractive niece, he quickly arranged her marriage to the Count of Anjou, who was 27 years her senior. In her new home, Bertrade became the undisputed mistress, as the elderly Fulk IV of Anjou unquestioningly fulfilled her every whim. They soon welcomed a son, Fulk V. Life would have been joyful, but the relatives of Fulk's former wives constantly interfered in the Anjou family's affairs. Fulk had married 4 times before Bertrade. His first wife died in childbirth, but he systematically divorced the next 3, citing close kinship as the reason. However, his ex-wives' families doubted this, as the Count of Anjou's subsequent wives grew younger and more beautiful. They could not forgive him for his 5th marriage to Bertrade. The 3 families jointly appealed to the Roman Pope. Urban II informed Fulk that at least 2 of his 4 former wives were still alive, and thus he had no right to marry again. Bertrade's position became precarious. Beauty was Bertrade's most potent weapon as a woman. Songs were written about her, romantic travelers shared tales of her, and she hoped this information would eventually reach influential ears. It did. King Philip I, son of Anna of Russia, decided to verify the bard's claims personally. Meanwhile, matters in Anjou worsened. The church threatened Fulk with excommunication and demanded he divorce Bertrade. No one paid heed when King Philip passed through Fulk's lands, but he noticed Bertrade, who learned of his interest. The rest was a matter of technique. There is a very credible version that Bertrade herself concocted the plan of her abduction and managed to inform King Philip about it. The 40-year-old monarch appreciated the idea, and on the night of May 15, 1092, the Countess of Anjou was taken directly from her private chambers. However, it was likely difficult to do so, and therefore, another version of the events, that Bertrade was thrown over a saddle as she exited the church, seems more plausible. The wedding was hastily arranged, and of course, the Countess of Anjou did not object. In fact, her husband, Fulk, whose affairs were hopelessly entangled, breathed a sigh of relief. Now, he no longer had to explain himself to the Holy See. In short, everyone was happy. King Philip, who had acquired a brilliant wife, Bertrade, who had been crowned with a golden crown, and the Count of Anjou, who was finally free from the relatives of his former wives. But Philip was also guilty. He too had a former wife, and with her, things were not very simple. Bertha of Holland had been languishing in the castle of Montreuil-sur-Mer for 2 years, which outraged the French clergy. Philip, however, refused to listen to anyone. He was in love with Bertrade. Therefore, the Bishop of Chartres, who had made too many loud statements against the king, was imprisoned. And Queen Bertha? Well, the recent Queen Bertha suddenly died in her fortress. The irony of fate. The Roman Pope had threatened to excommunicate the Count of Anjou if he did not divorce Bertrade de Montfort, and now the same master of the Holy See demanded a divorce from Philip. The documents sent from Rome, the King of France tore into small pieces. On October 16, 1094, Philip was excommunicated. And a few days earlier, his beloved Bertrade had given birth to a son, also named Philip. The confrontation began. Who would prevail? Would the clergy triumph, or the king? Philip was not allowed to participate in the crusade. What business did a heretic have on Holy Land? Many vassals turned away from him, but he continued to love Bertrade de Montfort. 2 years later, the king resorted to cunning. He announced to Rome that he was sending away the unwanted queen, that he was divorcing her. The jubilant pope lifted the excommunication, and the king immediately returned Bertrade to his palace and his arms. Together, they lived for almost 10 more years, and in all official documents, the Lady de Montfort was referred to as the Queen of France. She lived in full accordance with her high title and managed the treasury as if she were still the sovereign. The King of France died in 1108, and his eldest son, the offspring of Bertha of Holland, inherited the throne. He was called Louis VI, the Fat, and Queen Bertrade, no matter how hard she tried, could do nothing against him. Of course, she would have gladly placed her beloved son Philip, the Count of Mantes, on the throne, but the right of primogeniture was not revoked. This Philip, by the way, attempted to seize the throne from his stepbrother. He united with his other brother, the Count of Anjou, and raised a rebellion, but the young men lost. Subsequently, they even reconciled with the French king. Fat Louis was not known for his cruel character, and beautiful Bertrade retired to the Abbey of Fontevraud. She died on February 14, 1117. She had organized her brilliant fate herself, transforming from the Countess of Anjou, whose rights were disputed, to the Queen of France. And also, oh, the irony of fate, with disputed rights,